Yay!
I'm dreaming. I'm standing at a crossroads. It's pitch black. A cry fills the night. Ow! It's a haunting sound, carried on the wings of eagle and condor. A song that has been sung for centuries. Wolf sings to me of trusted relationships, of sacred bonds, of family. Ow! And each time a wolf howls in the distance, another one of my ancestors rises up from the belly of the earth and lines up behind me, all the way up to my great-grandfathers and my grandfathers and my dad. January 28, 2007. It's 11:30 at night. I'm in my condo, getting ready to go to sleep. The last 4 minutes between waking and sleeping. This is one of my favorite times of day. I'm on my queen-size Sealy Posturepedic mattress. I got one hand underneath my pillow, the other hand down on my crotch. All the worries of the day start melting away. My breath gets slow and deep. I feel like I weigh 500, 1,000, 2,000 pounds. But tonight, my God, this feels like there must be an earthquake happening. No, hurricane, no, this is Portland. I put my hand on my throat and it's like, Jesus Christ, my heart is like beating like crazy. I got one of these watches that tells me how fast your heart's going. Normally it would be 65 on my hand. Tonight it's like 129. Later, I wake up in the hospital at OHSU. They've been doing a lot of tests. Everything is white. White walls, white sheets. And I'm looking up at 3 doctors in white lab coats. Dr. Michael Wu, cardiac surgeon, 43 years old. Dr. Marjorie Redkin, 53-year-old internist. And Dr. Richard Sanchez, resident and assistant to Dr. Wu. So, Mr. Johnson, are you aware of your situation? Your heart is extremely compromised. And you need triple bypass surgery. And you need it now. Now! Now, just so you know a little about me, I'm one of those people that exercises all the time, eats all the right food, so that I don't ever end up where I am right now. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, medical doctors and hospitals are way far away as far as places to to go and people to see. But I didn't end up here in a vacuum. My brother Jimmy, he's a fireman in the New York City Fire Department, and he's 2 years younger than me, and he had triple bypass surgery 2 years before. My dad, his best friend, was also a fireman, Bobby Garber, and he died in 1979 having triple bypass surgery. So in 1980, when I told my dad he needed bypass surgery, he looked at the doctor and he said, "You can take your bypass surgery and shove it up your you-know-what." A year later, he retired from the post office department, and he's down in Fort Myers, Florida with my mom, laying on the beach. And he looks over at my mom and he says, "Gosh, I had no idea life could be this good." 2 days later, he dropped dead. The human heart pumps about 70 times a minute, 100,000 times a day, 36 million times a year, and in a normal lifetime, about 2.5 billion times. We didn't know any of that until very recently. If you look at the history of medicine, it goes back, way far back. But they didn't know much about the inside of the body. I mean, most of the time we've been on the planet, to open up the body, I mean, if you died in some cultures and there was a piece of your body missing, you were relegated to the places that would be the worst of the worst, like the hell of the hell of the hell. You just didn't do things like cut limbs or open the body. It was just a no-no, an absolute no. They used pigs. They figured the pig had a body similar to a human. So all of the anatomy books were based on a pig's body. They thought the heart was a furnace and blood was made in the liver. It wasn't until the 1500s, Michelangelo and a lot of the artists were really fascinated by what must be underneath, all of the muscles and bones. And there were medical students who were also pretty curious. Now in those days, most communities were fortresses. And if somebody did something bad, they hung that person. And they put their body on a scaffold outside the city walls to scare off any other would-be bad people. So Andreas Vesalius, one of these eager, curious medical students, is coming home one day and he sees a body. And he decides that he's going to try to take this body back to his house. So he goes up to the body and he grabs one of the legs and he starts twisting it around, pulls it off, and then puts it in his cloak and makes believe it's firewood to run back home, because if he gets caught, they'll hang him. He goes back and gets the other leg, goes back and gets the arm, other arm. And tonight, he's gotten really ambitious, so he goes back and he climbs up the 9-foot scaffolding and he jumps at it on the torso and wriggles around hoping it'll pull away from the head. And it does. 1525, Andreas Vesalius, first person that published a book that actually had all of the muscles and organs in exactly the right place. But these are dead bodies. They still didn't know what the heart did. It wasn't until 1825 William Harvey realized that blood was pumped through the whole body. But still, they didn't open up bodies. It wasn't until like World War I Terrible things are happening to soldiers, and their bodies are being ruined, and their shrapnel's entering their bodies, and the doctors don't know what to do. But for them, it's the first time they actually are getting to actually look inside bodies and see what they can do. It was hard back then. I mean, they sawed off limbs, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't even know what a tourniquet was most of the time. And they would cauterize the area. They would take a branding iron and cauterize it. And if you lived, you were the blood stopped. If you were lucky enough to live. It wasn't until the 1940s, Dr. Walter Lillehei had all of the characteristics for somebody to go a little bit deeper. You got to be willing to break the law. You got to be a rebel. You got to be really smart. So Dr. Lillehei worked in a hospital in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he made a deal with the pathologist that whenever a body came in, that pathologist would let him know. He would run up there and he would dissect the body and find out as much as he could. But they're dead bodies, right? So they needed something to experiment on. And they picked dogs because there were a lot of them and they were cheap. I love dogs. There's something about being down on all fours. Oh man. I can feel my butt. I can feel my arms. Oh yeah. I actually used to train dogs in my 20s. I could take any dog and teach it how to heel, sit, stay, come. I worked in New York City. And I trained dogs. And then I actually got a kennel in Brooklyn. And I started training attack dogs. Now you're going to a whole new level. This is like a team thing. You have to have a certain kind of dog. You got to have either a German Shepherd or a Doberman Pinscher, Rottweiler. And it's a team approach. So one guy is down there with the dog. He's trying to get the dog to come out. And then I'm there. I got this burlap sleeve on my arm. And I'm the perpetrator. And then that moment happens when the dog's looking at the trainer and he's going, really? Really? Yeah. And that dog comes at my arm and he's looking straight in my face and I'm looking at those teeth on my arm and I'm pushing my arm back in his face as fast and hard as I can. Because if I pull back just a little bit, his teeth are going to end up on my leg or somewhere even worse. So this magical thing's happening. It is juicy. I stopped training dogs a couple of years later. I actually still remember the day. I was playing with Bonko. Bonko was a German Shepherd. He was my hero. He was huge and we would wrestle together. And this one day, he's up on my chest and I'm grabbing his face and we're just doing this thing together and my girlfriend Mary walks in. And she's just standing there looking at us. John, if you gave me half the love that you give that dog, I would be in heaven. Hi, I'm Lucky. My name is Lucky and I'm a Labrador Retriever. You got a ball? My master is named Ken, and he has a lot of balls and sticks, and we have a great time together. But today I sneak out the back door. I'm going on a little trip down the street in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I want to have an adventure. Wow, that's a big van. Oh, there's a guy coming out. Maybe he wants to play with me. Holy cow, he's got some meat. He puts a rope around my neck. He's dragging me into the band. He takes me to this building, and there's all these dogs barking. They're trying to tell me to get out before something bad happens. Oh, they tie me down to this metal table. Oh, that's cutting my belly open. I'm bleeding. I can't even hear myself barking anymore. They must have cut my throat. I'm dying. So I'm reading about this, trying to learn more about the history of bypass surgery. And I start having dreams. And in one of the dreams, I find myself sinking down into the belly of the earth. And this dog comes up to me. And it's a dream, right? So this dog is as big as I am. And he takes me on a walk down a path. And strewn on both sides of this path for hundreds of miles are dead and dying four-legged creatures. Howling, wailing, bleeding. I start bawling. And then we get to the end of the path and there's a house there. And out of the house walks Dustin Hoffman. And I know it's not Dustin Hoffman, it's some kind of shapeshifter. Well, nice of one of you two-legged creatures to finally show up here. You have broken a sacred contract. We have had a contract with you for thousands of years. We have walked on this planet together. The winged ones, the four-legged creatures. You have eaten our flesh. You have used our hides to protect you in the winter, but you prayed to us. You took care of us. We walked together. You respected us. And then somewhere along the line, pretty recently, you got it in your head that you had dominion over all of us. That somehow it didn't matter what you did. And now you see what you have sown. You go back to your fellow two-legged creatures and you tell them what you saw here. I'm 8 years old. My name is Jackie. Well, I think you know me as John. I love school. I'm really good at it too. I like the penmanship thing. They give us these papers with these lines on it, and then we have to get each letter exactly right. And English, we have this thing called syntax, and we take a sentence, and then we write these diagrams, and we take all the words, and we break them down. The verb goes in the middle, and the noun goes in the front, and the adjectives go down here. And when I do it right, I get an A or a gold star. And I really like math, because with math, I will spend hours on a problem just to get the right answer, because when I do, nobody can take it away from me. It's noon, lunchtime. We play stickball. It's College Point, Queens. It's a great game. It only takes 2 people and you have 2 whole teams. So we do it up against the school wall. It's a brick wall. And I take some chalk and I make a rectangle. And then we have a stickball bat. It's just a broom handle, really. And I'm always the New York Giants. And then Bobby Wilderman or Jimmy Hanifin, one of my friends, he's the other team. Brooklyn Dodgers. And he's got a Spalding ball. And he stands there, and his job is to get that ball and go inside that rectangle, because then it's a strike. My favorite player is Willie Mays. Willie Mays is a center fielder, and he's a great hitter. But he also does this thing where whenever there's a fly ball to center field, he runs around and ends up putting his hands down by his belly, no matter where the ball is. It always ends up kerplop. Now it's 3 o'clock. Time to go home. My dad works in the post office, and sometimes he comes home early and sometimes he doesn't. And if he's home, something bad's going to happen. So, back to 2007, it's now February 2nd, I decide to have triple bypass surgery. First thing they do, they have to prepare your body, so the anesthesiologist comes down to say hello. And puts an IV in my arm. And that's it. I mean, I was so excited. I was looking forward to seeing the operating room and all these doctors and all the machines and everything. No. So when the doctor's going to do this operation, he's got to get ready. So he's got to have an artery that's going to be part of the bypass. So he's got to go into the leg or the arm. He takes a big artery, slices this open, and pulls the artery out of there. And then he takes a scalpel and he cuts from the top of my sternum down to my diaphragm. And then he takes a saw and he saws my chest open. Takes his hands and pulls my rib cage to the side. And there's my heart pumping away. There's no way you can operate on a heart with all that blood and pumping going on. So they take some plastic tubes and the blood goes into this machine where it gets cooled down to 34 degrees. The colder it is, the longer he can operate. But I might as well be dead. Hi, Dad. What's the matter? Nothing. What do you mean, nothing? Nothing's the matter. Then what are you looking at me like that for? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I'm scared. You're scared? What are you scared of? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I'm scared of you. This would go on and on for what felt like forever. And then it would escalate. And he'd either grab me by the back of the neck or the scruff of my shirt, or on a bad day, take me by the throat and push me up against the wall. And then ultimately, we would end up at the stairs, to the upstairs, where my bedroom was. Bend over! And then I would take my pants down, and I would hear the sound of his belt coming out. So they do a really good job, and they said it was a textbook case as far as my surgery. And the doctor takes my heart, puts it back where he thinks it was to start with, and then he closes up my chest, takes some wires, closes up my chest, and then it's off to intensive care. Oh, no, please. Please, Daddy, please, 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 please. By this time, I'm not even home anymore. It's like I left. I'm just like at the beach somewhere, like making believe this isn't happening. And I can feel a little shield, a little sheath wrapping around my heart to protect me just a little bit for when this happens again tomorrow. Intensive care. Normally after an operation like that, it takes about 12 hours before a person wakes up. Me, I was awake in 3. And it's really critical when you wake up because you're intubated. Basically, you've got this tube down your throat that's breathing you. And when you wake up, if the nurse isn't around, you could choke to death. Nurse. My nurse. When you hear the word nurse, you probably think of a 25-year-old pretty woman. My nurse's name is Ben. And Ben is 6'5" and weighs 300 pounds. And his hand is bigger than my head.
I'd know you anywhere, honest I would. I'd love you anywhere, anyone would.
That's me. My name is John, same as my dad's name and his dad's name. John Francis Johnson. I'm Jackie's father. I grew up in College Point, Queens. My dad came over from Norway. He was in World War I. Never talked to me very much. We didn't have much of a relationship. Mom said bad things happened during the war. He was in the post office till he was 27 and got Parkinson's disease. He would just sit in his chair all day long and shake and drool. I'm 6 years old. I decided that I would never end up like that. I graduated from high school and I joined the Marines. Hoorah! That's where I learned how to be a man. Everything I know about being a man, I learned from the Corps. I was in World War II. Shit happened over there, and unless you were there, it's not even worth talking to you about it. All I can say is, my buddies and I went over there, and we would die for one another. And some of my buddies did. I came back to College Point, and Lenore Mayazato, my old girlfriend, was still waiting for me. Lenore is hot. We get married. And then we find out she can't have kids. And then Jackie comes along. Oh, I was so happy, especially having a boy. For the first year, 2 years, oh, I was in heaven. I'm working at the post office now. Civil service is a good thing. You work 20 years, you get a pension. Not a great job. They got me moving around from one place to another. They got me at Kew Gardens, Queens now. I'm in this Jewish community. Every day, another person is in front of me complaining and bitching. So, my mail is supposed to be here at 11:15. It's 11:30. Where's my mail? I'm sorry, Mrs. Coleman. It won't happen again. What do you mean it won't happen again? It happened last week. And then Mr. Cohn and Mr. Rabinowitz and Mr. Goldberg, all day long, standing there smiling my ass off, trying to be nice. And then I come home. I come home and I go straight to the porch. This is my space. I've got my Wollensack tape deck and my vinyl long-playing records, Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett. I take a microphone and I croon into that tape deck. You heard me before, that was me. And I just dream about being in Vegas. And then he walks in. jumping up and down. He got an A in this, a gold star in that. He expects me to tell him how great he is. How great he is. Nobody ever told me how great I was. He's got too much fucking energy. And it's just me and him. It's just me and him. And I can't stand it. And I slap him and he shuts up. And I slap him a little bit more and he shuts up a little bit more. My job is to teach this kid how to be a man. He's got too much fucking energy for a little kid. It's my house. That's what we do. We hit our kids. Who's going to stop me? You? It's now February 6, 2007. A couple of days after intensive care. I'm doing pretty well now. Dr. Rick Sanchez walks into the hospital room that I'm in. The best thing that you could do at this point would be to get your butt out of here, because you're doing really well. At this point, the only thing that's going to happen in the hospital is you're going to end up with some hospital-based infection. So I go home. I live alone. For the first 6 weeks, you're not even allowed to drive a car, because if you, for some reason, hit the steering wheel with your chest, you would die. Life gets really small after bypass surgery. Even turning over is a big deal. I go to my naturopath, and he does this simple thing. He goes like this. He just takes my skin, and nothing happens. And he goes, my God, you're severely dehydrated. He puts me in an IV. And I'm thinking, I'm wondering what everybody else that comes out of the hospital does. I mean, I've got a whole team of health professionals that I know. I go to my chiropractor, my back is hurting. I'm wondering why. He looks at me and says, well, of course your back hurts. They ripped your chest open. I remember at one point, I actually got to the point where I could walk on my own. And I left my condo and I walked 3 blocks. I was so happy. And then I realized I had to walk back. So it's 4 years now, 4 years since I had that operation, almost to the day. My brother, who had the operation 2 years before I did, is having severe angina. And he's had a couple of stents since then. So I'm getting a little worried. I'm doing all right things, but this genetic thing has got me really wigged out here. So I take out my hospital discharge papers to just take a look and see what happened. And I find it's very hard to read these things. I find the page that's about the operation. And I swear that it says when they opened me up, one of my arteries was 70% occluded, meaning 70% shut down. The other one was 25%, and the other one was 0 or clear. The way I remembered it was like I needed to have bypass now because they were all over 90%. So, Mr. Johnson, you need bypass surgery and you need it now. What I wish you would have said, Mr. Johnson, sit down. Just between you and me, I got to tell you, I'm a cardiovascular surgeon. I've dedicated my life to this. This is what I do. I mean, I don't have a life. I mean, this is all I do, and I do it really well. You ask me what you need, I'm going to tell you to have bypass surgery. It's expensive, and it's going to take 6 months to heal yourself. And I think I ought to tell you. In 1990, Dr. Dean Ornish, who's a medical doctor, wrote a book called Reverse Your Heart Disease. You can change your diet and reverse your heart disease. So, you ask most people what you should do, and they're going to tell you you should go with me. You change your diet, you're out there in the cold by yourself. So it's basically a crapshoot. It's like, what am I supposed to do? don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Grandpa, Grandpa, what would you do? I came over from Norway. I left my family. I left the woods. I left everything I knew to come to the United States. And then World War I happened. It was a nightmare. And I came back from the war and I didn't know anybody. Dad, what would you do? The only thing I know, stay hard. Don't let anybody fuck with you. So, you know, you want to give me your life? So I've got a new teacher. My cat. My cat Jasmine is teaching me how to drool. At my age, I'm thinking it's probably a good idea. I mean, I don't want to drool and shake. I want a kind of cool drool. Drooling with dignity. So I'm at home. I've got a home office. And I'm working away at my computer, doing important things, being special, a man of the world. And then my cat comes, does her little dance around my feet, starts meowing. I don't have any kids, so Jasmine gets priority. So she puts her paws on my leg, and then she jumps up, and then she does a little dance, and then she puts her body on my chest, and I can feel her vibrating. She licks her front paws, and then I start to see wet spots down the side of my shirt. I start relaxing my jaw. And all of a sudden, I feel this spaciousness. I have a friend who uses this term, resting in the eternal. I never knew what he meant. And then this one day, last November, all of a sudden, we're laying together. I'm sitting here, and he's laying on my chest, and I feel this sharp pain right to the center of my chest. I could die right now. And you know all that stuff they tell you about right before you die, you're going to think of all the people you need to talk to and all the places you wanted to go and the things you didn't say? I just sat there and thought, yep, I've had a good life. Take me. It's not like that every day, though. But I do walk around with the notion that, I could die today. And I still have that thought in the back of my head that something bad's going to happen. I walk around with that monster in the closet when everything's going well, that something bad's going to happen. In some cultures in Africa, they have the way they pray to their ancestors is they actually yell and scream at them and demand what they want. Dad, you motherfucking asshole. Get your ass down here and take care of me. I want you to watch my fucking back. And now that he doesn't have a body anymore, he doesn't have any ego, I kind of make believe he's sitting right on my shoulder. Him and all my other ancestors, they're back there like my cheerleaders. Come on, John, you can do it. Take another step. And when I start feeling like I'm scared, that the fall thing, I'm scared, I say to myself, look around. Is there anything to be scared of here? Most of the time, unless I read the newspaper, everything is pretty darn good. Ah! die today. I'd rather die dancing than sitting in my room. I have one last dream. In this dream, I know when it's time to die. And on that day, I walk out of my house. I walk out of my house into the wilderness. And I walk back to the crossroads. And I lay my body down. And I have one last song. And I sing to the wolf and the four-legged creatures and the winged ones. Ho! And they sing back. Hoo! Hoo! And I lay there and I say to wolf, take my body, take my blood, and feed your young. And I ask forgiveness. And wolf and me have one last song together, where we remember. We remember. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. If you have any friends that aren't here, tell them about it. It'd be great to get some more people here. And we'll just wait a minute or two and then just have a quick Q&A.
Thank you.